When you think of earthquakes in the United States, your mind likely jumps to California's San Andreas Fault, the rumbling Cascadia subduction zone, or the geothermal volatility of Yellowstone National Park. These are the poster children of seismic activity, tied to tectonic plate boundaries and volcanic hotspots. But what if I told you that a state synonymous with flat prairies, amber waves of grain, and tornadoes is quietly shaking things up? Kansas, a place far from the infamous Ring of Fire, is experiencing a surprising surge in earthquakes, challenging everything we thought we knew about seismic stability in the heartland. Why is this geologically stable state trembling, and what secrets lie beneath its unassuming surface? Kansas is not a stranger to seismic activity, but its quakes have historically been rare and mild. Between 1867 and 1976, at least 31 felt earthquakes were documented in Kansas, with the largest being a magnitude 5.00-5.5 event near Wamego in 1867, which toppled chimneys and cracked foundations as far away as Iowa. From 1977 to 1989, the Kansas Geological Survey, KGS, recorded over 200 earthquakes, most of them micro-earthquakes too small to feel. Yet since 2013, Kansas has seen a dramatic uptick in seismic events, particularly in south-central counties like Harper and Sumner. This surge has sparked curiosity and concern among residents, scientists, and policymakers alike. What's causing these tremors in a state that sits far from tectonic plate boundaries? To understand Kansas's seismic mystery, we need to look beneath the surface. Unlike California, where the Pacific and North American plates grind against each other, Kansas lies in the stable interior of the North American craton, a region of ancient, relatively undisturbed crust. However, stable doesn't mean inactive. Kansas is home to subtle geological features like the Nemaha Ridge, a 300-million-year-old granite structure bounded by faults, including the Humboldt Fault Zone, which runs through the eastern part of the state. These faults, while not as dramatic as those along plate boundaries, can still slip under stress, releasing energy as earthquakes. Historically, Kansas earthquakes were infrequent and tied to natural fault movements. The 1867 Manhattan earthquake, the strongest recorded in the state, had a maximum intensity of 7 on the modified Mercalli scale, causing minor damage like cracked walls and loosened stones. Seismologists estimate that a magnitude 6.0 quake might occur in Kansas roughly every 2,000 years, a low probability, but not impossible. The state's seismic risk is classified as minor to moderate, with a band of moderate hazard running from Nebraska to Oklahoma. This baseline activity sets the stage for understanding why recent quakes are raising eyebrows. Since 2013, Kansas has experienced an unusual increase in earthquake frequency, particularly in Harper and Sumner counties. In 2015 alone, the state recorded over 100 earthquakes of magnitude 2.5 or larger, many strong enough to be felt. This spike contrasted sharply with the state's historical average of about 131 quakes per year, most of which were below magnitude 2. By comparison, from March 2015 to August 2015, Kansas saw 1,967 earthquakes. But after regulatory interventions, this number dropped to 668 between September 2016 and February 2017, a 66% reduction. What changed to cause this sudden surge, and why did the numbers later decline? The epicenter of this activity lies in south-central Kansas, near oil and gas fields where hydraulic fracturing or fracking and wastewater disposal are common. While fracking itself, the process of injecting high-pressure fluid to extract oil and gas, doesn't typically cause noticeable quakes, the disposal of wastewater into deep underground wells has been linked to seismic activity. This phenomenon, known as induced seismicity, occurs when injected fluids increase pressure or stress in subsurface rocks, triggering faults to slip. Kansas's proximity to Oklahoma, where a fracking boom led to a magnitude 5.8 quake in 2016, further fuels suspicion that human activity is a key driver. The connection between wastewater disposal and earthquakes isn't speculative. It's backed by science. The Kansas Corporation Commission, KCC, and the Kansas Geological Survey have been studying this link since the 2013 spike. Researchers note that the injection of millions of gallons of salt water, a byproduct of oil and gas production, into deep disposal wells can alter pore pressure and stress in basement rocks, activating existing faults. In Kansas, the majority of these quakes have occurred near disposal wells in Harper and Sumner counties, areas historically prone to minor seismic activity but now experiencing amplified tremors. In response, the KCC took action. In March 2015, they issued an order limiting saltwater injection volumes in 5 areas of concern in Harper and Sumner counties to 25,000 barrels per day. By August 2016, a second order extended these limits to parts of Kingman, Sedgwick, and Barber counties, setting a lower cap of 16,000 barrels per day. These measures correlated with a significant drop in seismic activity, suggesting that reducing injection volumes can mitigate induced earthquakes. However, smaller quakes persisted outside the restricted zones, indicating that the issue isn't fully resolved. Critics argue that the oil and gas industry downplays the risks. While industry representatives claim that only a small fraction of injection wells are linked to seismic events, the data tells a different story. From 2010 to 2012, the central and eastern U.S. saw over 300 earthquakes of magnitude 3 or higher, compared to an average of 21 per year from 1967 to 2000. Kansas ice spike mirrors this regional trend, with quakes like the 4.9 magnitude event near Milan in 2014 and a 4.6 magnitude quake near Zurich standing out. These events, while not catastrophic, rattled residents unaccustomed to seismic activity. While induced seismicity is a leading explanation, not all of Kansas's quakes can be pinned on human activity. The state's geological setting, with faults like the Humboldt and Nemaha, suggests that natural seismicity plays a role. Some quakes occur in areas with no nearby disposal wells, and historical records show that Kansas experienced tremors long before modern oil and gas operations. For example, the 1867 Manhattan quake and other pre-1977 events were clearly natural, driven by tectonic stresses in the mid-continent. Seismologists are still investigating whether recent quakes are entirely induced or if they re-amplifying natural fault activity. One theory is that wastewater injection is waking up faults that were already critically stressed. Shelby Petery, a research geophysicist with the KGS, notes that the pattern of quakes and pressure changes in disposal wells supports this idea. The Nemaha Ridge and Humboldt Fault Zone, while not as active as coastal faults, are capable of producing small to moderate quakes. The injection of fluids may simply be the final push that triggers these faults to slip, much like adding weight to a precariously balanced object. Another layer of complexity comes from Oklahoma's influence. Many of Kansas's felt quakes, like the 5.1 magnitude event in 2016, originated across the border in Oklahoma, but were strong enough to shake Kansas communities. This regional connectivity highlights the need for coordinated monitoring and regulation across state lines. The KGS's interactive earthquake map, which tracks events since 2015, shows that quakes often cluster near the Kansas-Oklahoma border, blurring the line between local and regional causes. Kansas's seismic surge has practical implications. While the state is unlikely to face a catastrophic quake, even moderate events can damage infrastructure. The 1867 Manhattan quake, for instance, threatened the Tuttle Creek Reservoir, which, if compromised today, could flood areas affecting 13,000 people. Engineers use seismic data to refine building codes and retrofit critical structures like dams and power plants, but public awareness remains low. Most Kansans are unprepared for earthquakes, associating natural disasters with tornadoes instead. The Great Central U.S. Shakeout, a multi-state earthquake drill, encourages residents to practice drop, cover, and hold techniques. Unlike tornadoes, earthquakes strike without warning, making preparedness critical. Simple steps, like securing heavy objects and staying away from windows during shaking, can reduce risks. Kansas's classification as a minor to moderate seismic hazard zone underscores the need for vigilance, especially as induced seismicity adds unpredictability. Kansas earthquakes challenge the notion that seismic activity is confined to coastal or volcanic regions. While induced seismicity from wastewater disposal is a significant factor, the interplay between human activity and natural faults remains a puzzle. Ongoing research by the KGS and USGS aims to clarify these connections, using advanced seismic monitoring to track quake locations and magnitudes. The decline in quakes since 2015 suggests that regulatory measures are effective, but the persistence of smaller tremors keeps the mystery alive. As we unmask Kansas's seismic secrets, one thing is clear. The flatlands are not as quiet as they seem. Whether triggered by human hands or the slow grind of ancient faults, these tremors remind us that the Earth is always moving, even in the most unexpected places. By studying Kansas's quakes, we not only uncover the forces beneath our feet, but also learn how to live safely in a subtly shifting world.